Good morning, everyone. Welcome back. Welcome back. Welcome back. This is the Quarantine Film Series. I'm your host, Kabir Segal. You heard that right. We're talking about films now. You may be familiar with our concert series. We've been putting the spotlight on incredible artists and making sure that music is continuing to reverberate. And we thought, why not extend this platform to filmmakers? As you know, all the gigs have gone away. A lot of artists have lost their their way of life, and how to make income. And my friend Shane and I, who's producing the show, we had a film this year. We were excited to go on the film circuit and the film festival circuit, but all those film festivals were canceled too. And so there's a lot of filmmakers out there with wonderful films that have projects that are having. It's hard to get the project out there in the world without the support and the buzz that the film festival makes. So these are conversations that we're having in the morning at 10:30 or so in the morning throughout the week. So I know I don't have a life. So at 10:30 at 10 o'clock at night, p.m. Eastern, we're hosting the concert series. And here in the morning now, you can watch conversations with filmmakers. Please tell us where you're watching from if you're tuning in. I'm obviously in Atlanta. I'm coming to you live from my parents' dining room table. My mom kind of is on strict instructions not to be on the Wi-Fi, but I think she kind of secretly watches. So hi, Mom. Tell us where you're watching from. If you have a comment, please drop it in the comments field. We'll try to get the filmmaker to opine to their comments. And with that, I want to welcome an incredible filmmaker, artist who's been working on this project for quite a while. His film, The Boy Who Sold the World, was an official selection at South by Southwest this year. Great honor, great acclaim. And I can't wait to see the film. It's on a great topic. So please welcome to the broadcast the wonderful Adam Barton.
Hey there. Thank you for having me.
My pleasure. Where are you broadcasting from?
Live from my in-laws' basement. I'm a New Yorker, but I'm sheltering a little outside the city at the moment. But I'm going back to New York tomorrow. I'm actually really excited.
Good. Do you have your mask ready?
I have a couple of masks. I got an A mask and a B mask, depending on the scenario.
Got it. Tell me first, how has the quarantine affected you, and what did you have lined up that's no longer happening or been postponed?
Well, it was, I'm not one to complain. My own dramas are small compared to what so many people are facing. So let me just first say that big caveat, because I don't. Have it pretty good overall. That being said, it was a career highlight. We had my film that I directed in South by Southwest 2020. My production company that I founded, we had a narrative film that was also going to play at the film that I was an executive producer for. So it was like we were about to go, tear down Austin with two films. And it was supposed to be like a grand reveal after 5 years of work. So it was pretty disappointing. It was also the right move. I'm glad that they canceled it because it clearly wasn't appropriate. But, so we had that going on. Our business had a lot of other things going on. I know you guys are really interested in music and talk to a lot of musicians. That's a part of our work actually as well. As a company in my group, we do a lot of documentary content, around music. And the day we were supposed to premiere at South by Southwest, we'd also been pinged to shoot a Billie Eilish mini documentary at Madison Square Garden. And that was looking like it was going to happen until this all went down. So it was just like, sort of mid-career, mid-company sort of big moment. And the brakes got hit awful hard. So it definitely affected us.
I hear you. Has anything been rebooked, or are you just waiting to see what the climate is?
No, I mean, nothing's been rebooked at this point. I mean, everything is just a brave new world. And, our group, what I say every day when we do our calls and think about what's next, we just try to embrace the change. It feels like things aren't going to go back to how they were. That being said, I mean, the work that we do in media is being consumed more and more. Like, all of the streaming platforms are having record, viewership, and social media is exploding. And so all of the sort of media touch points that we operate within are existing. It's also possible to make good stuff. My company tries to shoot really good looking films, and the aesthetics are a big part of it. So webcams are, make us throw up in our mouth a little bit, So it's a little hard to
Totally.
feel like we can do what we do now. And I think that's the hard part for us, is we know that there'll be a way to keep working, but are we going to enjoy it? Are we going to be good at it? Like those are the questions.
Tell us about the film, The Boy Who Sold the World. What's the project? What's the sort of the premise, and what's the story about?
Yeah, there he is, The Boy Who Sold the World, Ben Pasternak. I mean, so I'll tell you about the film, and then there's it continues to evolve, and that's sort of been the story from the beginning with him, is that you think it's one thing and then it becomes another, which is what's fun, I think, about the film, and what's fun about like making a film about him. I've told him, sort of how proud I am of like his evolution. There were times where in his story, I, frankly stopped filming because I was like, I don't know where this is going. I'm not sure I like it. But Ben is an amazing entrepreneur. Like, I mean, this guy really is like one of one in the world, and he gets a lot of hype. And I think as a teenager, he caught a lot of hype, from the press. People thought he was the next Mark Zuckerberg because he'd made, as a 14, 15-year-old, started making apps that were blowing up on the App Store, trending worldwide. He was, invited to the developers conference at Apple. He was offered an internship at Facebook, like all as like a 14 or 15-year-old kid. And, he wasn't like actually the traditional hacker. Like, he's actually a businessman. Like, he actually is like an entrepreneur with ideas, and his skill set isn't like sitting and coding. His skill set is like figuring out how a product fits a market. Like, he really has like genius level talent at this very specific thing that you don't usually see from people of that age. But he'd honed it from the time he was 9, because he was making a YouTube channel, doing unboxing videos, sort of like understanding virality, understanding how, audiences work, understanding how to reach a consumer base. Like, he really was just like tinkering with those things, like from a really young age. And, so that let him get exposed to venture capitalists who thought he was interesting and were interested in investing in him. He pitched as a 15-year-old some of the top Silicon Valley firms in all of Silicon Valley. Like, the guys who invested in things like Twitter and Facebook back in the day were investing in his new company called Flog, which came on the heels of, you can see here, this slide, or previous one here. Yeah, this is Impossible Rush. This was his first app, which got him the attention. And then Flog was what he pitched to the investors. And Flog is like eBay meets Instagram, right? It's like he was doing a sales platform, trying to make it cool. It was all about, selling sneakers, selling old phones. It was like, he really wanted to make a curated product experience for things that teenagers would want to buy and sell. And he got a lot of attention for it, a lot of momentum. He's got this great network of people supporting him. He's got all this money, and his parents let him live in New York by himself. He moved from Australia, and that was the moment I met him. Was like 3 days before his mom dropped him off. Is basically when I started filming, and I was just like, who gets their own apartment in Manhattan at 15? And their parents just go to the other side of the world. And it's like, and I was just like, I don't know what this is, but clearly this is gonna be a story. And there's his mom actually dropping him off. That's the moment she got on a bus and went to the airport. And I was lucky enough to film some of these things just as they were happening. And I didn't know exactly where it was going, but I just kind of kept filming. His mentor at the time, Chris Smith, was a filmmaker, so I knew as well that in working with Chris, that if we were making something, it would have a chance to come out. Chris is a guy who directed like one of the Fire Festival documentaries, and has done a film about Jim Carrey and a great movie called American Movie. And he was into apps. So he was mentoring Ben, but also knew that Ben was a fascinating story, but wasn't in a position to make the film himself. And so it was one of those things that I lucked into the story and realized the whole time, like, I just got to keep filming this because it's just so interesting. And I know that if I make a film, we're going to have the support of people like Chris to try to get it out to the world.
How did you get hip to this story to sort of have the presence of mind to, and I know you're a filmmaker and you probably have that lens, how did you connect with him initially? And then also, I'm going to ask two questions at once. So the whole thought of like just filming and seeing where the story goes versus knowing where it goes. How did you navigate that?
Yeah. I mean, so Chris, and another producer, Jack Turner. They're the two producers on the film. I know Jack because he is my brother-in-law, and so Jack and Chris were looking for someone to basically get involved and film this kid's story. So I was introduced, and I sat down and did an interview with Ben in his apartment, and it ends up being in the film in the first part of the interview. And I asked him one question. He talked for like 40 minutes, and that was the moment I knew that this was a story. And I also knew that like he had this like funny personality, aside from all the talent and the work ethic and the entrepreneurship. He's just like a hilarious person. So like that was the moment I realized it was a story, and I didn't know where it was going, truthfully. We initially decided to make a web series called CEO at 16, which was going to follow him from when he turned 16, because that was like right when I started filming him, basically all the way through his first year in New York. And we did do that, and we made a series that that came out on a platform called Fullscreen. And you know, that gave it some shape in the first year of filming with him, but you know, his story lasts now until he's almost 21. He's 20 now. And so the film, you know, takes place over these 5 years. So after that first year, it was really just like checking in with him and seeing as the story evolve, and then just going and making sure I was capturing enough of it to tell the story. So I didn't really know where it was going, particularly in the second phase, the real second phase in which I was filming, which was this monkey period of time in which started dealing with like a lot of troubling issues, visits from the FBI, and you know, issues about privacy, and he was sort of confronting a lot of the issues of the social media world, like very, very head on. As you're running a social media platform, suddenly you see all the problems, you know, with social media from both sides. So from the inside, he's seeing like how, you know, to run a good social media platform, you sort of have to keep people on screens, and it's like this game of keeping your attention up, and you know, that can be a troubling game to play, honestly, because it's not always the healthiest thing. So, you know, there were moments where I was like, man, I don't know where this is going. I don't know if this is positive. And, you know, I think Ben ultimately came to his own realization about that and decided to do something else, which is when I really started filming a lot again, when he decided to start this meatless chicken nuggets brand called Nugs, which was a huge turn out of making apps. He went from making apps to making vegan chicken nuggets. He hates the word vegan though. Like they're not vegan. His whole thing is like making them just as good as anything else. And you don't see on the box anywhere that it says vegan. He just like wanted to make a better chicken nugget. So he applied the tech lens. He's like, I'm going to make the best version now. I was making the best app before. Now I'm making the best chicken nugget, and it's not going to include meat just because that's what's going to make it better. So
have you tried it? Have you tried the chicken nugget?
Oh yeah, and they're a great quarantine snack, right? Because you can order them online.
Mm-hmm.
Actually, they're working on other retail deals, but right now the way to get them is online, so you can order them. And
Gotcha.
I'll say like I think they've evolved it. They're using the sort of online sales as a way to improve the product, because they can get feedback online from people. And my feedback right now is that they have like a great crunch, and they're definitely satisfying in the way a chicken nugget is. I would say they're geared for like kids, so like younger people. So they're very mild, like they're very inoffensive, if that makes sense. Like they're not pushing hard in one direction, which means they're great for sauce. Like dip them in sauce, and they're a great sauce receptacle. So
has he seen the film, and what is his? If so, what's his reaction?
Yeah, I mean, he and I talk all the time still, because we're gonna keep filming a little bit more. What's happened since South by Southwest is Nugs. I mean, I could tell before South by Southwest, and it's in the film, that Nugs is blowing up. Like he's on track for in the festival cut. We were ready to say he was on track for 15 million in sales this year, and I think that number is higher now because it's just blown up. Part of it is that people are looking to try new things during quarantine, and you can order this without going to the store, frankly. Like he's probably had some good benefits there, but it's a good product, and he's also really honed in on his marketing, and it's reached people because people are also on social media more. And so I don't know. I think he's doing great things with it, and we also are thinking we may extend the narrative until his 21st birthday, so that it goes from 16 to 21, and includes a little bit more of what's happening now and in the next few months. So he's seen the film. If that's your question, he's seen the film a number of times, and at different times. I mean, I think I'm not trying to play gotcha with this film. I think the story is interesting enough that I don't need to like be withholding things from him. He's very open-minded. He's willing at this point really to own his mistakes. So like there's things that are less flattering in the film and things that he definitely did wrong. And he's sort of open to that. He's like, and I think that you can't ask for more from a documentary subject to like, to really open themselves up in that way. At the same time, like, it's definitely evolving. So I also show it to him in efforts to say, look, we need to film more about this topic. Can you tell me more about this? So it's I don't know if it's quite a collaboration, but like I definitely have a lot of dialogue with him.
Sure. Talk about the craft of the post-production, which seemed wrapped, but now you've reopened it. Talk about the craft of what you shot in, like some of the software you use, the editors, the music. Walk me through that process.
Yeah. So we shot most of the film on like a Sony FS7, great documentary camera. So for the most, but we also use a lot of tools. We put cameras in his hands, a DJI Osmo and GoPros. Now he's shooting a lot of stuff on iPhone that we're incorporating. So we're really, and there's even a whole section of the film that's built out of live photos that we cut together as a video montage. So we're really trying to just use all the best tools. The best camera is always the camera that you have, right? So, we try to shoot like cinematic stuff as best as possible on one hand, but we're also telling a story that crosses platforms and is very contemporary. So we're using a lot of different kinds of devices in that regard. In terms of editing, the whole film was cut in Adobe Premiere. We had a number of editors who worked on it. I mean, the original series was cut by a guy named Sebastian Fiedler with help from this guy, Matthew Hart. And that was years ago, but that helped us kind of create the base of what the film was going to be. That was our first year of footage. And then since then, we've added many more years on. A guy named Sam Mink was originally sort of the associate producer on the series. And he started coming with me on shoots and built a good rapport with Ben. And in the time, I mean, you make a film for 5 or 6 years, people change, people grow, people become better at what they're doing. Sam Mink decided he wanted to become an editor, literally took classes, went and worked for another company, and then came back to us and put his hand up and said he wanted to edit the film. And I gave him the shot because he had seen and he knew all the footage as well as anyone, as well as I did. And there's nobody else in that scenario. So it let him kind of enter the film with a working knowledge of the older materials. And so he worked on and off for about 6 months starting last summer to create the current edit. And the South by Southwest edit is his edit. And unfortunately in quarantine, we're not like working as an office. So I've been sort of messing with the film myself. I have a background as an editor. So we're sort of in the exploration phase again. And it's a weird place to be. I wasn't really that happy at first to open it back up and start working on it. I'm sure Sam isn't either, but we'll come together again when this quarantine is over, before the film comes out, and get on the same page. But it's sort of odd. It's just an odd thing to have happen, like where normally like it would have gone to the festival, people would have seen it. Thing is, nobody's seen it, so like that meant that like if we could make it better and we had the time, we just sort of have to.
Yeah. And what about the music? What was the soundtrack for this?
We have a great music supervisor who helped us, and basically he sourced a lot of different stuff for us over the last 6 months. And there's let me actually have the project open. You can flip over. Just wanted to make sure I get the name right here, because he found this one group that let's see. Sorry, I'm not coming up with their name. Basically, it's a couple of different libraries that we're using, but then he found this great electronica duo
Cool.
that provided is probably the main. It sort of defined. He sort of helped us define what the music was, and this duo sort of is at the core of that. And then there's other music, that sort of is built out around that. It's not like they're doing the whole thing. They're called Ash and Spence, is a
Cool.
duo. They're not like a big group or anything, I don't think, but their music was just the right tone, and so we sort of used that as the like, you know, thesis for what the music was going to be, and then we used other artists and other sources around that. But like when we found that group, like they're sort of like textured, ambient, like really good cinematic, like electronica, like that was the right vibe, and we built back from that.
Got it. What can you share with us about your plans to get this in the world?
So yeah, we're back in editing, which, you know, although I'm upset about it, it's also exciting because we're making the film better, and that's all I can really hope for. The goal is to get it on a streaming platform. We, in this day and age, I mean, the last film I worked on in our group, we did get a theatrical release, which is cool, but just it doesn't move the needle that much for docs 1 and 2. It's just like not a good time for theaters. Like they're not releasing Wonder Woman, much less our documentary, right? So we always thought that this is like a great, you know, sort of Netflix or Amazon Prime type doc. So, you know, I think Netflix still is the defining streaming platform. So that's where we'd like to sell it. Who knows? At this stage, we haven't broached those conversations yet because we want to show them the final version or closer to it. So we sort of took a pause on the shopping phase, but we're hoping that by this fall, you know, we have a place to bring it. And, you know, I have a part of the reason, you know, that I attacked this film with a lot of sort of a dogmatic approach, like not letting it go after 5 or 6 years, is because of the strength of our producers, Chris Smith and Jack Turner, who, you know, they're really established guys. And so their advice as sort of filmmaking mentors is huge. And also I just have a trust level that we're going to get the best shot. We're going to get a real look by, you know, all the top executives. And, you know, that's also what makes me just say, you know, I'm doing it, diving back in, like, let's make it as good as possible because people will see it. And it's
Cool.
important.
So
yeah.
Where can people go to find out more about, there we go.
Yeah, the website, boysoldtheworld.com. The funny thing is we might change the name of the film, right? I mean, I think our little journey here is indicative of the filmmaking process. It's just like you go until it, you know, it's probably the same in music. Like albums take these, you know, like crazy paths before they get released. I think our film is sort of like that. But the Boy Who Sold the World, for now, we'll have all the updates. We haven't really pushed it on social just because we haven't really felt like we're ready. But we needed a website, so it's there. You can contact us through that, and for updates, if you want to email, there's an email on that. And eventually we'll put the trailer up there and we'll push it a little harder, but that is the space to look for updates. There's like some reviews up there from South by. We did get some reviews because we did send it out for reviews at the time of the festival. Yeah, and more
Cool.
news.
To everyone watching, please go to theboywhosoldtheworld.com and go there quickly because the Euro may change. And
We'll bounce it. It'll always work. Yeah, don't worry.
Got it. So and you know, check out Adam on social media, follow his stuff. Great filmmaker. He has other films that he's working on, and he already talked about. He was doing 2 at South by Southwest. So maybe we can get you back to talk about your future projects as well. Thanks for being a guest on the show.
Thanks for having me. Appreciate it.
Yeah. Everyone else, want to give a shout out to my main man producer, Shane to the Ubudo, wonderful producer, also hummus creator. So if you need some hummus, just drop a comment down and we'll try to get you some. Just kidding. I mean, I don't know if we can actually mail it, but all right. So that's it. Check us out 10 p.m. Eastern every single night. Tonight we have the great Kame Gallus, who's a great pop singer, and Saturday and Sunday we have 3 p.m. shows as well, 3 p.m. matinee showing. So just bringing you the music. Thanks, everyone. Have a good afternoon. Have a good day. Stay home. Stay well.